Harihi Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Tat Purushaya Vitmahe. Vakratundhaya Dhimahi. Dhanho Dhandhi Prachodhaya. Om Gajananam Mahakayam Vicknarajam Vinayagam Vishvesham Vishvashaksham Ganeshayam Namo Namaha. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gurave Sarvalokanam Visaje Bhavaroginaha Nidhaye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurthaye Namaha. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Sai Shvararphanamastu. Yogena Chittasya Padena Vacham Malam Sarirasya Cha Vaidyakena Yopakarotham Pravaram Muninam Pathanjalim Pranjaliranatosmi Abahu Purushakaram Shankchakrasidharinam Sahasrasirsham Shvetam Pranamami Pathanjalim. Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Yogeshvara Arpanamastu. Anyadashranam. Om Tat Sat. Sai Ram, and welcome back to the journey into the Yoga Sutras. So we are in week 5 today, and so far we have traversed about 42 verses in Patanjali's 196 verses. Today we move on to week 5, and at one point we'll be moving from the first book, Samadhipada, to the second book, Sadhanapada. So we're looking at verses 43 to 51 in the first book, and then we begin with verse 1 in the second book called Sadhanapada, right? So verse 43 is Smriti Parishuddhau Swarupusunya Iva Arthamatra Nibasha Nirvitarkaha. What does that mean? Smriti Parishuddhau Swarupa Sunya Iva Artha Matra Nirbasha Nirvitarka. What does that mean? Smriti means memory, as I always say, Smriti and Shruti, right? Memory. Parishuddha means, Shuddha means purification. Parishuddha means complete purification. Swarupa means your natural, essential self, your natural self. Sunya means to get rid of, right? Iva means as though, as if, Artha, right? Meaning matra. Artha matra means a different meaning, right? Nirvitarka, Nirbasha means like tejas, shining. And Nirvitarka means something that you join together without attaching any analysis or any of your own thought process, maybe your own analysis, if you like. So what it basically means, this word, this verse, non-analytical linkage to a higher concentration. Listen carefully. Non-analytical linkage to a higher concentration occurs when the memory is completely purified and the self becomes one without the need to inquire. So your inquiety or inquisitive nature disappears. That's when the true nature will shine through you, and that shine is what will attract the Prakriti shine, where the yogi gets Siddhic powers, right? And it all begins here, the Anya Chakra. That's where what goes out attracts and brings back. So the power is there. Hence it's called the third eye, the eye of wisdom on Yanakkan. So this is talking about the yogi when he is actually engaging in dhyana or dharana or pranayama or pratyahara, one of these 8 Ashtanga yogas. Does he seek to explore, or does he seek to analyze what he is seeking or what he is seeing or what he is feeling or what he is experiencing? Or does he seek to explore whilst analyzing? Because each will give you different results. So this verse is focusing on that, and it's telling non-analytical linkage to the higher concentration forces will only happen when the memory is completely purified and your nature becomes one with nature. Your essential self, your natural self becomes one and vibrates with the natural nature. Then you can attract any force. Until then, if you're trying to analyze what you're seeing, you're trying to assess what you're experiencing, if you're trying to, put it in terms of experience in word form or in any kind of visualistic form, then you are still hovering at the lower levels of analysis. That is why he's saying smriti parishuddhau. That means, complete cleansing of the memory is needed, so that when you look at something, you just enjoy the experience and you are not seeking to analyze that exploration. Because analysis is a very human thing. But if you want to go into the spiritual planes of higher consciousness, you don't analyze, you just experience what you are. And that experience should take you. Experience without attachment of analysis. Simple as that, right? Experience without any attachment of analysis. Now, what is Patanjali trying to say? He's trying to tell you how the great yogis accomplish whatever they accomplish. So that you, when you go in the same path, you also can seek to reach those ideals. So it is not beyond accomplishment, it is not beyond reach. He's telling you this is what they did, and therefore this is what they have experienced, and this is what they have achieved. You too can do it if, Shuddha means purity, Parishuddha means complete purity. That means there cannot be any remnants or residues that pulls you back onto the earthly plane, right? So he's very clearly saying buddhi and manas should be maintained properly, right? This is what, when I did Bhagavad Gita with you, I was telling you, isn't it? What is Krishna and what is Arjuna? Krishna is the buddhi and Arjuna is the mind. The mind is always wavering, but unless the buddhi is solid, then the buddhi can dictate to that manas, and the manas will listen when it has got sufficient discipline, right, of Shravanam, that means listening. Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhyadasanam. That means once you listen, you have to contemplate on what you have listened and you have to put it into action. Shravanam, Mananam, Nidhyadasanam. Okay. You see, otherwise, what will happen if you do not silence that weapon you have within you, that weapon that analyzes? You see two people together, you analyze. You see two people not together, you analyze. You see something, you analyze. You don't see something, you analyze. You think of something, you analyze. You don't think of something, you analyze. Analysis will lead you to paralysis. That is my own saying, right? Because it paralyzes you from becoming free of the harassment of the power of analysis. Fantastic. So he's saying, Patanjali is saying, unless you set your mind free and your memory becomes purified, you will always be caught by the tentacles of this human analysis. Free yourself. Otherwise, you won't be able to fight it, he's saying. Your whimsical and impulsiveness will slow you down and will pull you back, because you are living in that world of impressions where analysis is the key thing. Move away. These distractions you don't need. Slowly reduce these distractions one by one, and then you can move into the realm of Chittakash. Chit Akash. Sky of consciousness. Chitta means consciousness. Akasha, you know what it is, right? So fantastic. From 43, he leads us into 44 that says, Etaya eva savichara nirvichara cha suksma vishaya vyakhyataha. Fantastic. Etaya eva savichara nirvichara cha suksma vishaya vyakhyataha. What does that mean? Etaya means by this, eva, only this way. Savichara means investigation. Nirvichara means non-investigation. Cha Shukshma means the subtle, Vishaya means object, Vyakhyatha means that which is explained. So he's saying, by this, he's continuing from 43. Remember, everything is a continuation, right? By this, the investigative link and the non-investigative link that is within a person is the sole determinator of whether they reach to a higher concentration, right? Because if you focus on the gross, you will be vibrating and hovering in the gross circle or cycle. If you leave that gross and go into the subtle, then you'll be going into deeper energies, from the subtle, the subtle to the total vast emptiness. That is the universe. So he's saying in this verse, very clearly he's saying, there is a difference between an analytical approach and a non-analytical approach, and an investigative approach and a non-investigative approach. You know, when they say, listen with indifference. When you listen, you should not listen with the motive or notion of forming a judgment at the end of it. Right? There's a slight difference, he's saying, between investigative, non-investigative, analytical, non-analytical. Right? You know, what's the difference? He said every yogi is different. Right? It depends on the yogi's own interest, right? Where he wants to go, what he wants to get, because different people have different, right? And therefore, that will determine how his own energy works. So you have to do a sankalpa before you meditate. Why are you meditating? What are you meditating for? And what is it that you seek as a result of that few minutes of meditation that you're going to do, right? At a higher stage, the yogi regards the subject of interest without any bias of analytical or investigative approach. This is called as total surrender. He's just saying, I'm doing this. Let me see where I go with this. So there is no point to reach. There is no analysis in that journey, reaching that point that you would intentfully reach. You know, there is no person that you're going to see in that journey. There is no thing that you're going to interact or react to. Interact with, react to. That is total emptiness, right? Because what you perceive and what you aim for is what the mind will focus. So he's very saying, don't put anything in the mind, keep it empty. So you will reach emptiness. If you put something there, your mind will focus on that item, that object, that destination, and it will determine to go and get there. So very, very, systematically, he's telling how to do this, right? Verse, see, so now from 43, he went into 44. He talks about analytical, non-analytical, investigative, non-investigative, move from the gross to the subtle. In verse 45, he's talking about what is the subtle, how do you get there? It's meticulously planned. Each verse just takes you deeper and a bit deeper and a bit deeper and a bit deeper. And you won't even know, once you get into the cycle of, reading these verses one after the other, you will think it's like a story. It goes, Verse 45, Shukshma Visayatvam cha Alinga Paryavasanam. Right? Shukshma Visayatvam cha alinga paryavasanam. Sukshma means subtle, Sukshma energy, right? Visayatvam means that which only concerns the nature of gross objects. Cha and alinga means, linga means, it has a shape, it has a character. Alinga means that which does not have a shape or a character. Simple, right? Paryavasanam means the end of, a discharge, termination, that sort of thing. So the verse translated means the insight into the subtle nature of gross objects. The insight into the subtle nature of gross objects terminates, ends, when one becomes linked to the higher concentration force, which has no characteristics. How fantastic is that? The gross will always have a character, right? Look at a tree, it will have certain characteristics. If you look at a certain bird, they'll have certain characteristics. If you look at the sky, you will think of blue, white clouds moving. You will always have some characteristics. Now he's saying, cha alinga. He said, in order to move from the gross, you have to move away from the characterization of what you see and what you visualize. Then and only then will your mind move, your insight move into the subtle from the gross. Right? The yogis have to do this, you have to do this, everybody has to do this, right? You will start at one base level, and depending on how intentfully you do it, every time you do it, there has to be some progress. If there is no progress, that means you're not doing something right. Remember, your mind is the first thing that has to work when you are interested in yoga. Then only body. And the mind and the body is both vibrating at the same level of reaching what you want to get, then only the spirit comes in. So yoga is a union of mind, body, and soul. If you don't do your mind, the body alone will never work, because the body is gross. So you will only vibrate at the gross level. Maybe you will have a slim figure, maybe you're healthy, but spiritually you're not growing. Spiritually you're not growing. The mind, he's saying, move away from the gross, go into the subtle. At that point, your attachment, your investigation, your exploration, your analysis with characteristics, with features will stop. And at that time, you have traversed the boundaries of gross and you have gone into the subtle nature. This is what he's saying in 45. 46. He continues with that. He's saying, Ta eva sabija samadhi. Ta eva samidha sabija samadhi. Ta eva means that only. Sabija means that which motivates your thoughts, your mental, emotional energy. And samadhi, of course, samadhi, where you are vibrating at the state of equanimity. Equanimity means you are equal. Equal to what? Equal to that force that does not exist. That non-existential universal force that itself verily is the force, but without the force. So no more characteristics. You're just floating. That is one reason why you always see Mahavishnu, right? You will always see him on Vasuki, the snake, the serpent, the 1,000-headed serpent. He's resting on it, but entirely it's in a white ocean, right? That's why it's called Shira Samudra. It is white. White is purity, endless purity. In endless purity sits divine energy. Even there, you have the 1,000-headed serpent just dancing and waiting to grab you and take you back, right? So in 46, he's saying, Ta eva sabija samadhi. The previous description which he gives concerns effortless and continuous linkage to the attention to the, only attention should be how to link to the higher concentration force. That must be motivated by the right mental, emotional energy, your thoughts, your chitta, right? And of course, your chitta can only be cleansed through the recitation of Om, Omkara. Remember, all this time, whatever you're doing, you are also breathing. That is the central focus of any yogi's, attempt to go higher. First, the breathing. Pranayama comes first, then only pratyahara, then only dharana, then dhyana, then samadhi. So if you haven't got the skill of how to regulate your breathing, again, that is a problem, isn't it? So he's saying, yeah, after you make some progress, right? That's why even Patanjali says at one point, not now, but later, he said, Tat vachaka pranayava. Pranava is the main focus point of any yogi's progress, recitation of the pranava. Tat vachaka pranavaha. So he says the yogi can only progress in his engagement with yoga when he is motivated by thoughts, and that thoughts must vibrate constantly and consistently at the same level in order for him to transcend and continue with his endeavors, right? Because otherwise you will not discover new frontiers. Constantly must push, go. Otherwise you'll go and come back, go and come back. Complete detachment from your surroundings. That is why when you sit to meditate, you must be in a place where it is devoid of any sound. Right? For example, you're sitting in your room door is closed, but if a dog is barking outside, you can hear. That can disturb you if you haven't detached yourself from the surroundings. That is what he's meaning by you must be motivated by that mental emotional energy that is non-attached to the external sounds, but only attached to what is hearing inside. Right? Otherwise, you will lose purpose. If you constantly hear, then your mind is only listening to what is outside. It's very difficult to go from the outside to the inside. And in 47, he says, Nirvichara Vaisharadhye Adhyatma Prasadaha. Nirvichara. Vichara, investigation. Nirvichara, non-investigation. Vaisharadhye means becoming competent in something, right? He is saying Nirvichara, Vaisharadhye, Adhyatma, Prasadaha. He said only when you go deeper and deeper and deeper into gaining a non-investigative feature yourself, you become non-judgmental. That's what he's saying, right? Then you gain the competence to go into the Adhyatma, relationship between the Supreme Soul, Adhyatma, Jivatma, Paramatma. Then it becomes Prasadaha, means clear. That picture is clear of the relationship between the Jivatma and the Paramatma. Paramatma, Adhyatma, same thing. Only when you get this quality of Nirvichara. I always say the 3 V's, right? When it comes to mind, when it comes to decision making, when it comes to being judgmental, when it comes to being analytical, I always talk about the 3 V's. Yeah. The first V is Vichara. That's what you say, Vichara, right? The second V is Viveka. And the third V is Vak. Vichara is, of course, investigation or exploration. Viveka is exercising discrimination, and Vak is speech. So you see, before you speak, the 2 other V's must have taken place. Somebody tells you something, you must do Vichara first. Vichara means what? Exercising discrimination in your exploration, right? Before you say anything. So you don't have to comment when someone tells you something. If you gain that competence over a period of time, very easily you can relate to the Paramatma. But if you're constantly engaged and engrossed and embroiled in this listening and, backbiting and, all this storytelling, then you're not going to transcend that. The Nirvichara will take you from a lower level of non-attention to a higher level of concentration. At that level, if you continue to do, you will gain competence. Gain competence for what? Gain competence to engage in a relationship between the Adhyatma and the Jivatma. that point things become very clear. And that's what he's saying in 47. Right? Your attention constantly is seeking somewhere to latch. So he's saying, don't give it something to latch. Nirvichara. Don't be investigative. Don't be analytical. Empty. So it cannot, after some time, it will give up and it will just start to merge with the energy itself. No, spiritual energy in totality. And when you continuously do this, you gain competence. When you gain competence, you can engage in the relationship. How beautifully he is saying things, right? In 48, he says, with that competence only, the yogi develops reality perceptive insight, RPI. It's not your retail price index. This RPI is reality perceptive insight. 48 says, Rathambara tatra prajnana. Rathambara tatra prajnaha. Prajnana. Rathambara means reality or the perception of reality, the truth. Ekam sat vipraha bahuda vadanti, so the Vedas say. Tatra means yatra here, tatra there. Yatra this time, tatra that time. Right? Prajna means insight. So he's saying, Athambara tatra prajnaha basically means with that competence, the yogi then develops reality perceptive insight. RPI, what I call Athambara. Right? Bhagavad Gita, in Krishna, when he talked to Arjuna, he always refers to this Rathambara Buddhi, he'll say. Arjuna, you should develop Rathambara Buddhi. What does he mean? He means Jnana Chakshusaha. This means that, or Jnana Deepena. Jnana Deepena means, Jnana means wisdom. Deepena means that which lights the wisdom, right? Insight, basically. Vision, Chakshusha, Chakshu. Chakshu means sight, vision. Insight is Jnana. So this is sometimes called, the Agnya Chakra. Agnya Chakra. This is where it is very important, the Agnya Chakra. Right? It's about, I've done chakras with you, so I've explained what each one does, what the characteristics of each chakra is, what the color is, what the sound is, what it vibrates at, right? See, there are 7 chakras. The middle chakra is the heart chakra. Above the heart, there are 3 chakras on top. Below the heart, there are 3 chakras. So the 3 bottom from your heart relates to life. Your Mooladhara, your Swadhisthana, and your Manipura, right? Relates to the bottom. And then your Anahata, your heart. And then the other 3 on top, Vishuddha, Ajna, and Sahasra, is for you to get the higher liberation. So your heart is the connecting factor that allows you to go from the bottom 3 chakras to the above 3 chakras. Therefore, your heart must be how pure? Right? That's why they say, Deho Devalaya, Hridaya, Atmalaya. That's where God resides. Okay. So Krishna has always told Arjuna throughout the battle, we say, develop this thing called Rathambara Buddhi, right? And it comes after much practice. And Arjuna is always asking, how do I do that? How do I do that? So don't keep asking how, start working on it, right? Try to regulate your breathing with your thoughts with your speech with your actions. Krishna has already told him, do this. And once you do that, then everything works out synchronously, right? Because the problem now is people are breathing at one level or even not breathing properly. They're thinking something, saying something, and doing something else. So where do you see harmony coming? So Patanjali says, Rathambara tatra prajnaha. Says, develop this reality perceptive insight. That means constantly you must be reflecting on something. Unless I do this right, I'm not going to get the right results. As I always say, if you keep doing the same thing all the time, you'll only enjoy the same results. You keep getting the same results. Therefore, the Rathambara Buddhi is what verse 48 is saying. 49, he's saying, Shruta Anumanaha Prajnabhyam anyavisaya visheshatharvat. Right? Shruta means Shruti, what is heard, Shruta. Anumanaha means from what you heard, what you have surmised, or what you have reasoned out. Prajnabhyam, from the two methods of insight, analysis, investigative. Anya, Vishaya means the other object. Vishesha means particular thing or focus on something. Arthavad means the object. So basically, this verse translated means it is different from the two methods of insight, which are based on what is heard and what is reasoned out post the hearing, because that is limited to a particular aspect of an object. So if you hear something about someone, you will reason out only that. So that's why he says it's limited. So earlier he said, nirvichara, right? So you must firstly ask, when you get information, right? And put this in practice from today going forward. When you get information, and I mean any information, the first thing you have to ask is, before you respond, is this information going to make me better? Is this information going to make me spiritual? If yes, then continue. If no, means that's it. That's the end. Close it, move on. You don't have to comment. If you start doing this and people see that this guy is indifferent to whatever I say to him, they'll stop telling you things. And that's going to help you progress spiritually. The moment you start to hear and react and respond to everything people tell you, all the nonsense will come to you. What's the point? Your own life you cannot sort out. You want to talk about everybody else's life. What's the point? That's why Patanjali is saying, Nirvichara, Nirvikalpa, Niratyatha, Ekho Shuddha Narayana. Right? Narayana Upanishad is saying that. Even the Narayana Upanishad is saying that you have to come out of all these characteristics. So next time someone tells you something, the first question, is this information going to make me better, or is it useless to me? Most of the time it's useless. Is it going to make me spiritual? No. Carry on. What does Swami say in his code of conduct? He said, do not talk ill about others. Even if you cannot oblige someone, speak obligingly. Very easy tattvas have been given. Tattvas means teachings. Right? Yoga Sutras, Yoga Tattvas. So the point is, we are not doing. Because when you start analyzing information, prejudice comes in. When prejudice comes in, judgment comes in. Who are you to judge? Unless you are perfect. So I always tell people, if you are so perfect, give me a photo. I'll remove whatever photo I have in my altar and I'll put your photo in prayer, because you're a perfect human being. Because you're not perfect, we pray to things that have got such perfection. We relate to that perfection, not to the picture, but to the perfection that the picture represents. Isn't it? This is the science behind science, S-I-G-N-S, science. The science behind science, S-I-G-N-S, is what it represents, not the sign itself. Right? You're driving on the road and there is a big round, sign that says 50 on it. It's telling you that the speed limit is 50. That is the science of that sign. If you understand that, that sign is no longer important to you. But if you are focused and latched onto the sign, then what it's trying to teach you becomes useless. Right? So here he's saying, Shruta Anumana Prajnabhyam Anyavisaya Vishesha Arthatva. If you only hear something, then you will only reason that what you're hearing. And that is very limited to what the subject matter of what you heard. That is complete limitation. He's saying, don't. Hear nothing, see nothing, feel nothing, but experience everything, he's saying. Oh my God. Hear nothing, see nothing, feel nothing, but experience everything. Fantastic. Fantastic. Then he goes to verse 50. He says, Taja sanskara, anya sanskara pratibandhi. Tata sanskara, anya sanskara pratibandhi. Tajna means that which is. Sanskara means, impressions, sayings, doing things. Anya means anyada, without the other. Sanskara, as you know, sanskara is practice, impressions. Pratibandhi means that which can stop you, that which can prevent you, that which can deter you, that which can detract you, that which can stop you, that which can defer you. Right? Basically, it means that impression which is produced from the reality perceptive insight acts as a preventer of all other useless impressions. So it just bounces off. The moment you have got that characteristic of reality perceptive insight, that thing is not material, that thing is not important, that thing is not significant, that thing is not good for me. You become reality perceptive insight. That will prevent, that will act as a shield, right? As a kavacha, and everything else will bounce off it. It will not seep. At that point, you are clearly being taken from the gross into the subtle. Again, I say the focus is on the mind. I mean, how many of you sit down for meditation and nobody needs to know this, right? You know for yourself. You're sitting there, your eyes are closed, people are saying Om, you are aware of that, but in your mind, you are going all over the place. You're going back to your house, you're going back to your office, you're going to the park, whatever it is, wherever you're going with whoever you're going. But you're set there. So there is a complete detachment of what the mind wants to achieve, what the body is doing, and what the thought process is. So everything seeps in. There is no RPI, reality perceptive insight. If you have that, then all this will bounce off. After some time, it will stop coming because it knows I can't get anywhere. So why bother going? Stop. Then you have been taken into the subtle. It's very, very fantastic how, Patanjali has gone from one to another and slowly taking you deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Right? Can you imagine if a car only has one gear, a top speed car, but one gear can only do so much. Unless you shift into the second gear, that smooth transition into a higher speed will not happen. Same concept. Same concept. Right? And when it smoothly changes from one gear to another gear to another gear to another gear, my God, you don't even feel the journey. The driver drives effortlessly, right? So this is how you see the difference between people who start yoga and then you say, I don't know, I never get, never get it. And then there's some people who just go into it effortlessly, and some people obviously vibrate at a very high level. This is the difference between the thought process, right? The subtlety of your thoughts determines the aim and where you're destined to go, right? That is very significant information which you need to think about. Verse 51. And this is the last verse in the first book called Samadhi Pada. In my first introduction, I said there are 4 books, right? Samadhi Pada and Sadhana Pada. So this is the last verse. Tasyapi nirodhe sarva nirodat nirbija samadhihi. Tasya, that which is also api, tasyapi. Nirodhe means does not work, a non-operation if you like. Sarva means all, right? Sarva. Nirodha means resulting from that doesn't work. Result from that is nirbhija. Nirbhija means there is no seed. Bija means seed. Nirbhija means there's no motivation, there's nothing, total emptiness. Samadhi. Samadhi means your efforts to reach a state of equanimity. So what he's saying is the continuous effortless linkage of your wanting to reach the higher concentration force, which is not motivated by the right thought process, occurs when there is non-operation, when there is emptiness, right? And there is a prevention of all other impressions that suppresses lower memories. What does that mean? So first he says, you must be able to suppress all the lower memories and all the lower characteristics, all your base feelings, all your base thoughts, right? Then you create an impression of going from the outside, all these thoughts, words, actions that don't mean anything, to the inside, where there is nothing in terms of thoughts, words, actions, analysis, investigation, interrogation, exploration. There's nothing like that. And you go into that total emptiness. This, a continuous effort in doing this, transcending, right? Transcending, that is what will get you to the higher concentration force. And all other gross impressions cease, subtle impressions emerge. They will not exist or coexist. They exist independently. If this guy exists, the gross, the subtle will not come to fore. The moment you kill this little by little by little by little, this will grow little by little by little by little. This is empty. If this grows, this one closes up. This becomes alive. This grows, that becomes. Power is in your hands. That's why they say the power is in your hands. Because I've been showing you some mudras. Power is in your hands, right? It is not some, clocked up or coined up phrase. Power is in your hands. Literally in yoga, power is in your hands, right? Depends on the mudra that you do. Well, today at the end, I'll tell you what your hands represent. Fantastic science. So that 51 verses concludes the Samadhi Pada, or the first chapter. Now we go to chapter 2, which is called the Sadhana Pada. What is the Sadhana Pada? If you remember in the first week, right, I told you about the 4 books, right? Samadhi Pada is the conceptual part. Sadhana Pada, sadhana means doing, right? So Sadhana Pada means how you accomplish through practice. That's what it means. Sadhana Pada means, now I've told you all the concepts in 51 verses. Now I'm going to tell you how to practicalize those concepts so that you grow into the next level through sadhana. Okay. So he's saying, Tapaha, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhani. Right? Ishvara Pranidhani, Kriya Yoga. Tapa means austerity. Tapa, tapas. Swadhyaya, Abhyasa, Swadhyaya. Study of the psyche. Ishvara Pranidhana. I've told you what that means. Ishvara Pranidhana. Supreme Lord. How you connect to that Supreme Lord. Pranidhanani, where you connect your breath through your breath, or you connect through breathlessness, when your breath ends. Kriya Yoga means dynamic yoga practice. Practice of yoga at a dynamic level. So what he's saying here, Tapa Swadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga, basically means the austerity, study of the psyche, profound meditation on the Supreme Lord is what Kriya Yoga is all about. So you see, from concept, he's now going into Kriya. Kriya means practice, right? Practice. Kriya Yoga. Kriya Chittaha, Kriya Dhyanaha, Kriya Karanaha, act. So he's saying you have to move from the thought process to the action process. And Sadhana Pada is all about action. Even Krishna, in his final conversation, in one of the books, of course, Bhagavad Gita, when I did with you, I said there are 4 parts. One part is the path of jnana, and one part is the path of karma, kriya, practice. Right? And Krishna spoke to Arjuna about all these parts by jnana, dhyana, karma, and Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Say, there's 4 parts. Choose one path and go in that path. Doesn't mean you have to do everything. You choose one, follow that. It's enough. They say there are many roads to Rome, right? So verse 1, Tapaswadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanani Kriya Yoga. Right? You cannot straight go into yoga, the yoga of meditation, when your thought process has not been streamlined, right? That is why the first few chapters, Krishna is talking to Arjuna in the battlefield. The first few chapters is just on the mind. Arjuna, take off all this, unnecessary confusion, unnecessary analysis, unnecessary thinking, overthinking, overreacting, all this take out, take. Because only when that mind is clear, it doesn't have all this, then I can put in some stuff for you to think about and do. So even in the battlefield, first was just the clearing, cleansing, clearing, cleansing, clearing, cleansing. It's just like, if you're going for a surgery, right? 1-2 days, they will keep you just to prepare you for the surgery. Make sure your vital symptoms and signs are all okay. Your blood pressure is okay. If you're a sugar patient, your sugar levels are okay. Your thyroid is the right level. They make sure you are ready for the surgery, and then only they will do the surgery. Otherwise, they keep deferring it. Isn't it? That is just to do a surgery for the deha, for the body. Can you imagine Krishna was doing a surgery on the mind of Arjuna? How much clearing he would have had to do? Because the amount of conditioning that Arjuna went through, so much of attachment. That is my great grandsire. How can I fight his Pitama? That is my great guru, Dronacharya. That is my kith and kin, my own cousins. Can I fight them? What is your duty? Why are you here? Why are you here and what is your duty? Be clear in that. Everything else becomes unnecessary. If everything else you focus on, then why you are here and what is your duty, dharma, as a Kshatriya, what is your dharma? That becomes blurred. So the line between maintaining a clear thought of action, thought process, and a blurry one is knowing your place at the time, at the place, at that point. Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? Focus on that. Then, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Yatho dharmaha tatho satyaha, Yatho satyaha tatho Krishnaha, Yatho Krishnaha tatho jayam. Fantastic. When you focus on your dharma, truth prevails. Where truth exists, Krishna exists. Where Krishna exists, only jayam, victory is there. What more assurance you want? What more assurance can you get? Beyond that, there is nothing more. And he's already said, Yada yada hi dharmasya glahinit bhavati bharata apyutthanam dharmasya tathatmanam sajamyam paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya chatuskridham dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Man, don't worry. Whenever there is unrighteousness, I will incarnate from age to age. You just focus on your dharma. How much more do we need for us to do what we are supposed to do? It's very difficult, isn't it? It's verse 1. Verse 1 itself is telling, go into the practice. Right? Second verse of the sadhana pada is saying, Samadhi bhavanartha klesha tanukaranarthascha. Samadhi means, of course, I've already explained what samadhi is. Bhavana means to produce, to bring about, right? To churn out. Artha means value. Kama, artha, artha, the value. Klesha. Klesha means, again, klesha I've explained before, the same meaning, right? Thought-related afflictions. Thanu means, the process of thinking. Thanu comes from anu, thought process. Karana means the cause, you are causing something. Arthacha means the value or purpose. Cha means and. Meaning it is for the purposes of producing a continuous effort to link your attention span to the higher forces of concentration, thereby reducing the afflictions of the normal gross thought processes. Samadhi bhavanartha klesha tanukaranarthascha. Fantastic. He said, without you reducing all this, there can never be a samadhi. That's why he's saying, yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, then only samadhi, right? So he says you have to go through that process. You go to school, you have to go to LKG first, then only nursery, then reception or nursery, then your primary, then your secondary, then your college, university, then post. You don't jump. If in life you have to follow a stringent, regulated, rudimentary process, can you imagine if you want to spiritually evolve and spiritually progress? Of course, there are rules. Yama, moral rules. Niyama, spiritual rules. Asana, posture rules, how you sit, how you do things. Pranayama, breathing rules. Pratyahara, focus rules. Dharana, concentration rules. Dhyana, meditation rules. Samadhi, reaching that stage of equanimity. Okay? So visualization is very important. Only when you visualize things, you can go towards it. Visualization is a very powerful tool, yeah? You can visualize yourself, on yourself, about yourself, for yourself. Visualization. In verse 3, he goes on to say, avidya, asmitaha, raga dvesha, abhinivesha kleshaha. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, kleshaha. What does he mean? Avidya means spiritual ignorance. Vidya means spiritual knowledge. Avidya means spiritual ignorance. Asmita means you don't know who you are. Misplaced identity, if you like. Raga dvesha, right? One of the Bhagavad Gita slokas, raga dvesha, right? A tendency to be emotionally attached, raga, Dvesha means impulsive, emotional disaffection. Dvesha. Abhivi, Abhinivesha means strong focus on something that is not important because of fear, right? So you fear disease because of death, that kind of thing. So Abhinivesha means strong focus on a mundane existence which is due to an instinctive fear of death. Kleshaha, mental, emotional afflictions. So he's saying here, what can pull you down, from that jumping over from concept to practice? He's saying mental and emotional afflictions are caused by avidya, spiritual ignorance. Asmitaha, misplaced identity. Ragaha, emotional attachment. Dvesha, impulsive emotional disaffection, right? And strong focus. Abhinivesha, strong focus on something that is really not important, but you put so much of importance because you fear disease, you fear death. So you focus on all the wrong things. Beautifully saying, this is the prime cause. When you move away, I mean, look, can you stop yourself from getting disease? Yes. So you must do the right thing. If you don't do the right thing, then disease will be the automatic result. Direct consequential actions of your own doing. You can't stop death, no matter what you are, who you are, what you eat, what you drink. Nothing can stop death. When it wants to come, it will come because that is your karma. No one can escape it. Even Rama, the 7th avatar, did not escape it. Krishna, the 8th avatar, did not escape it. Buddha didn't escape it. No one can escape death because that is a very natural act of another natural act called birth. Yetho jivanaha tatho maranaha. Whenever there is birth, there will be death. Right? That is why you go to the higher level planes of consciousness where you can even exist. after death. Samadhi, Raghavendra, Adi Shankara. These people are there still because they go from the body to the energy, from the gross to the subtle. Exactly what this yoga science is all about, right? So he says, don't be in avidya, don't be in ashmita, don't be in raga, don't be in dvesha, don't be in abhinivesha and klesha. Tell you, superb is not the word, right? Verse 4 is saying, avidya kshetram uttaresham prashupta thanu vichinna uttaranam. Avidya, as I said to you, spiritual ignorance. Kshetra means place or field, if you like. Uttaresam, other things that can affect your sense of affliction. Prashupta means that is not alive, dormant, dormant, no life. Thanu, as I said, is reduce or reduction. Vichinna means, changing, alternating, like changing shifts, that continuous cycle. Udharanam means explained. So basically, spiritual ignorance, he's saying, is the existential environment for other afflictions in their dormant, reduced, periodic, or expanded stages. I repeat that again. Right? He's saying spiritual ignorance is the existential environment for other types of afflictions which exist in their dormant, reduced, periodic, or expanded stages. Spiritual ignorance, avidya, is the root cause of all mental and emotional distress. Simple, in one word, this is what he's saying, right? And when you have avidya, ignorance, right, that becomes a seed from which all other afflictions will grow and grow and grow. Like if you have doubt, the seed of doubt becomes a great big tree of problems. Right? That is why he's saying, do not have doubts. Doubts is the greatest. To put one small seed of doubt, it will grow and make your tree so big that you cannot handle it. Right? He's saying, they'll make you dormant. They'll reduce you. Periodically, you'll be shifting in and out of things, and they can grow in expanded stages. What can? Avidya, spiritual ignorance. And then he's saying, anitya, asuchi, dukha, anatmasu, nitya, suchi, sukha, atma, khyatiya vidyaha. Right? Anitya, asuchi, dukha, anatmasu, nitya, suchi, sukha, atma, khyati vidyaha. Spiritual ignorance is exhibited when what is temporary, impure, distressful, mundane, is identified. By that person, all those things are identified as eternal, pure, joyful, spiritual. So who are you fooling? You're fooling yourself. Anitya means, nitya means, permanent. Anitya means temporary. Asuchi means not clean. Dukha means distress or sadness. Anatmasu means you're not doing it with full spirit. Right? So he explained these four things: anitya, asuchi, dukkha, and anatmasu. But he says, to the untrained mind, that spiritual ignorance will say that anitya is actually nitya, asuchi is actually suchi, dukkha is actually sukha, and of course, anatmasu is atmakhyati. So you identify all the negative with the positive because that's what keeps you happy. That's what keeps you happy. So your own mind will say, hey, do it. It's joy. It's giving you nice. But it's not pure. No, it's pure. But it's not permanent. It's permanent now. Don't worry about impermanence. So spiritual ignorance will do that to you. And the more you do that, the more you're being dragged into the gross. The more you're dragged into the gross, the harder it is for you to transgress into practice. So from samadhi, you cannot be going into sadhana. Fantastic. Don't be fooled that you are the body. Don't be fooled that you are the mind. You are actually nothing but Shivoham. I am not the mind, I am not the body. I am not the wind, I am not the earth, I am not the sky, I am not the water, I am not the process. I am at the end eternal consciousness. Shivoham, Shivoham. Shivoham. Shivo is that which does not exist even in existence. Shivoham means I am that very non-existence that exists. So that is verse 5 of the Sadhana Pada. I have 14 verses today. So next week we go on to the next 14 verses in the second book of Sadhana Pada. What I want you to tell you now is, I said to you, I'll talk to you about your hand, how powerful this hand is, right? This hand is your connection at an earthly level to the super consciousness. So you use at a physical level, at a conscious level, you use this hand, the subconscious level, the mind, so that by doing things with this hand, you can reach the superconscious. Right? So there is a way in which you go from the conscious to the subconscious using your hand to relate to the superconscious. Okay. Now, every single finger has a meaning. So if you say, the Panchabhutas, the 5 elements, right? What are the 5 elements? Your thumb is fire. Your little index finger is air. Middle finger, earth, or ethereal space. 4th finger is earth, and 5th finger is water. So in your hands, the Panchabhutas reside. That also the Panchabhutas relate to the 5 energies, like your little finger is Vyana, that deals with circulation. 4th finger is Apana, excretion. Middle finger is Udhana, space, upper body. Then this one is Prana, deals with the heart. Your index is your heart, right? And of course, Samana, fire, is digestion. Okay, so you see how much is there. That is why the mudras are like this. This is called Adi Mudra, where this finger goes and touches the base of that little finger there, right? Your little pinky, if you like this. And then this part closes it. This is called Adi Mudra, right? You do it for both. Remember all this, you can do it like this, you can do it like that. You keep it at your heart level, like this. I mean, you must feel a gentle pressure. You feel a gentle pressure, that's good, but cannot too much pressure, right? Remember, you must be breathing, right? You breathe in everything and you exhale everything with that short pausation there. 5 minutes. Then you stop for a minute and then you do it for another 5 minutes. Only 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night. It completely declogs your entire mental process, right? Another simple way is for you to declog. If you lack focus, children can do this, you can teach your children, right? But they must breathe properly. As you breathe in through your nose, you breathe out through your mouth. But all the time, with these fingers, you're just playing with your forehead, the side on the temple, and the forehead in the middle. So breathe in and breathe out in your mouth. Complete clarity you will get. Don't do it 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days, and then say, oh, Brother Vic said, do this, you'll get clarity. Do it for 90 days and then see the change. Anything you start, minimum 90 days. Okay. That is where I will stop today. Nyada sharanam nasti tvameva sharanam mamaha tasmat karunya bhavena raksha raksha maheshwara harihi om tat sat. Sai Ram.